Hello, everybody. Today we have Nadine with us, and I'm thrilled. I'm really thrilled. I met her several years ago on her podcast, and she's going to tell us about that and kind of her special needs journey. But then we're going to kind of jump into the crazy life of a special needs mom and how, we feel like there's times when you were like, okay, we're doing good. Everybody's good. We're doing all the right things and all the therapies and all the whatever. Everything's working out. And then life happens. And so we're just going to kind of talk about that. When life happens, like, what do we do to take care of ourselves? So Nadine, thank you for being here with us today. Can you kind of just tell us a little bit of your story?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. It's lovely to see you again. Yeah, you were,
Yes.
I think, one of the first guests I had on my podcast. And you reminded me of, everybody can chip in the household. You don't have to do it all by yourself. I'm Nadine. I'm 47 years old now. We're currently live in the Netherlands, but we're a military family. We're a Dutch military family. We've been based in Germany, in Kansas. We really see Kansas as our second home.
I'm sorry, Kansas in the United States?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. My kids have a mean Midwest accent.
Wait, so the Dutch military, I'm sorry, we're getting off topic here already. The Dutch military has
well
in the US?
Well, in Leavenworth, Fort Leavenworth, there is I would say a military academy for the higher ranking officers, and every country has that. But in order to be understanding each other internationally, how you work, have people on all levels that know other people. It's important that you understand the systems and you understand the country. So you have exchange students, even military-wise. So there's an American officer here doing his higher command training, and there's a Dutch officer. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know how it is for the US, how many countries they do that with, but we do that with, I think, France, Norway, England, Germany, the US. So we lived in Kansas for a couple of years.
That's really cool.
Yeah. My favorite hobby is quilting. So, it's kind of mandatory if you go to Kansas, but yeah.
I love that.
So military family. I have a now 19-year-old wonder boy, autistic wonder boy with ADHD, and I have a 17-year-old supergirl who battles juvenile arthritis. That's the main thing, but she also has uveitis, and that's an autoimmune disease on her eyes, and dyslexia. But if you have such strong, heavy chronic illness, you deal with a lot of mental issues as well. But I think that goes the same if you're neurodiverse. And I have 2 companies. I am a board member of the Dutch Juvenile Arthritis Association, and I deal a lot with research, international research as well. I'm writing a book. I have a podcast, and I'm currently also following a study to become a certified ADHD coach, but more geared to adult women, because I got my ADHD summa cum laude certificate 2 years ago, and I just thought I was so energetic, but no, that's the name
Makes
as well.
sense.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just diagnosed this year, so I'm like, oh my gosh, it makes so much sense looking back on things, and why I don't know.
It's so strange because I've got a son who has autism and ADHD, but for some reason I thought he always talked about that his mind was never quiet, but I don't know, I always thought that's an autistic thing. My mind was also never quiet, but I'm a mom. I'm a special needs mom that has a lot of interest. So I never connected the dots. And of course, there is a big difference often with how boys are in class and girls, and I'm the eldest of my siblings, and trying to please, nurture, like a lot of girls, I think, do, a lot of women do as well. So it's not always noticed. And it was kind of because I had a young girl on my podcast, because I wanted to give parents kind of hope. If you're a young adult with ADHD, how is that like? And she was talking to me, and I went like, oh my gosh, I'm hearing myself. So just out of curiosity, to be honest, I thought, my son had all those days, that they did tests, and I thought, how would it be for me? And, just checking out, it will be interesting for my podcast to talk about. But it was an eye-opener. It really was an eye-opener. And for that, I really saw it as a spa day, because it was just about me. Nobody was, no kids around. I was out of the house. So it really felt like a spa day to me. But it was amazing. I had to do 2 computer tests, one with Ritalin and one without. And when a Ritalin kicked in, I didn't notice until suddenly I was like, where are the voices? Well, this is quiet. Well, this is boring.
Yeah.
But then during, the day, I went like,
Yes.
this is, and I hear a lot of people, also parents. I talk to a lot of parents that are afraid about, taking meds, because, you will turn into a zombie, or, you will lose your creativity. No, maybe 40, 50 years ago. But nowadays there are so many options, and of course you have to fine tune it, and it doesn't always work for especially when you have autism and ADHD. We see that with our eldest. But I went like, wow, it's like 2 glasses of wine, except, without I'm over 40. So after 2 glasses of wine, I don't do anything anymore, but I can focus better. I can interview better, because I remember more details without going into rabbit holes.
Yeah.
I still don't finish sentences, that will never change. But yeah.
It is so, I love that you're doing that, because it is, I coach a lot of moms that they're like, I think I might have ADD. I'm like, maybe that's a big possibility right here.
Yeah.
But it's so hard to get away and take time for yourself, and have your spa day of, I love that you called it that. It might not feel like that for me. It's another, and I don't want to do it, but oh my goodness, yes. When I figured out the medication, it is like all the skies parted, and I was like, oh, wow, this is what it's like for a normal person.
Yeah. You go to bed a little bit more rest, because, it's just, there are
I'm glad we're there together.
Yeah. No nagging voices in the back of your mind going, you have to think about this as well. It's it's really clouds that get out of the way, clear sky, and
Okay. So today we're kind of on this topic already, because I think that taking care of yourself and figuring out things like that for yourself is a big form of like self-care and all of those things. But when we were talking earlier, kind of that first thing that you said, I was like, yes, that's it. We've got to figure out what's important. So when things are crazy, how do you kind of process all of that and figure out like what really needs to happen right now?
Yeah, it's hard, because, I'm now 19 years in the special needs parenting. And every time you think, oh, it's going better. Yeah, everything is going smooth. They're now in college, and the medication is working. And the moment you think you can relax, shit hits the fan. And we saw that over the summer with our daughter, that suddenly got really ill. We didn't know what was going on. They're still doing a lot of tests, but the big difference with This happened with her 4 years ago as well. She had a huge inflammation, outbursts everywhere. But at that time, I was, only concentrated on her. I didn't allow myself to get out of the house or, have a drink with a friend or go for a run, because I had to be there for my daughter 24/7. Because, she's suffering, so I should suffer, and I can't relax and, laugh or enjoy myself when she is, dealing with so much stress. So I hardly got out of the house, and thankfully we got our daughter in therapy, and the leading therapist sometimes has a talk with the parents as well, just to not to breach confidential what my daughter is saying in her therapy sessions, but to see how we react as parents. And that therapist, the moment she saw me, so can I do something for you? And I went like, well, I just want to know what I can do to make my daughter happy. And I think all the red flags were up, going, I think mom needs therapy, because of course you can help your kids. You can be there, drive them to therapy, cuddle them, pamper them, spoil them rotten sometimes, if it's going bad. But in the end, they have to figure out, their own path. They have to fight their own battle. As much as I still would be like, please just give me the disease. I will handle it. No, she's a different personality than me, of course. So she has to fight her own battle. And, being young, she's 17. So we can say, just be cheerful and look at the bright side and write down 3 things you're grateful for in the morning. When you're 17, you just want to be like all the other kids. So that therapist really helped me to take time for myself. She said, it's like a rubber band. They can be really strong. You can even have a lot of rubber bands around a watermelon. But in the end, if you don't relax and that rubber band is always stretched out, it will snap. And thankfully, I noticed myself as well. I'm like, no energy anymore. I can't even smile anymore. I think I need help as well. So it's not going really well with my daughter now. The difference is, no matter what, I will go for a run on Friday morning. I have my phone blocked. They're 17 and 19 years old. So that's, of course, is a big difference. But if I go to physical therapy for myself or, go for a run, non-negotiable. Nowadays, I actually say no to people. Now, I will, even if the doctor says, can we have an appointment on Friday morning? I will say, can we do it Friday afternoon? Of course, if it's, really necessary, of course. But I kind of found out that you can actually ask for a different time. And I was like, so grateful that, we have really good health care in the Netherlands. So I was just grateful that he can see her. Great. And I would drop everything. But they're also now 17 and 19 years old. I don't have to drop everything anymore. Not all the time, not immediately. I can say, well, there are 2 moments in a week
that are off limits.
Off limits.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that that's so important to figure out what those things are. In your self-care journey, and then guard them with your life. Because as mamas, we're like, if we're not filled, we're not pouring out anything beautiful to our children, And we think that we're taking care of them and we're loving them, and we're showing up for them. But how much greater if we get to up with a full heart and really be able to pour into them.
Yes.
So yeah.
I have to say, for me, I can see the difference in now. Of course, it's still hard, and we have days that are just awful. If test results come back that are negative, or she can hardly get out of bed, things like that are awful. And I see that with my 19-year-old as well, with autism and ADHD. Days that he's so overwhelmed with stuff, and he's so-called high functioning, and that sounds really nice, but it just means that he looks smart and can sociable, but in the inside he needs a lot of comfort and not a lot of guidance. But nowadays I can actually say, well, not right now. No, mama needs a break. Can we do? No. I will, where it's possible, and where it's possible, often it is possible. Where I used to bend my own schedule to fit everybody, apparently the world doesn't end if you stop doing that, and people actually understand if you say no. Good.
And I think our kids understand too.
Yeah.
So I love that yours are 17 and 19. I feel like that there's a lot of freedom that comes there, but I think even earlier on, we can start putting those boundaries in place.
Yeah.
And our kids can understand that, especially I find with my kids that are neurodiverse, if I can explain to them, like, sometimes you just need a minute to calm down. That's what mommy's doing right now. So
yeah,
this is my time, drinking my coffee. When I get up, then I'll help you.
Yeah.
And just being very clear about what's happening and how you're taking care of yourself, because that's modeling it for them too, right?
Yeah, we had, I remember that we even had, but that had nothing to do with the disease, but just more the end of the day. And I think you mentioned something like this as well. But, our talk was a couple of years ago that at 5 o'clock, from 5 to 6, I'm prepping dinner, but everybody is tired from their day. So from 5 to 6, even when they were younger, it's do your own thing. It can be whatever you want, but it's also for mom, it's kind of doing your own thing to relax, because most of the time 5 p.m. it's the perfect time to have 10% firms, and I would see moms with really tired kids in the grocery store, and like, oh poor mom. Never go grocery shopping at 5 p.m.
Just wait. Just wait a minute.
Yeah. So and I think I have certain days or certain a certain morning here and a certain morning there, and that's really nice. But I think it's also really important that you take mini moments during the day, and that you even when they're younger, that you can say to your kids, you can talk to me in 5 minutes or 10 minutes, when I had my coffee, or instead of locking yourself in the bathroom with, especially when they're toddlers, you can't even pee, in peace, because they want to be with you all the time. You can set boundaries, and I think especially on days that are really hard and overwhelming, finding those tiny little thingies for yourself. And that's not scrolling on Facebook, because it is nice, but before it's drains your energy as well. So
yeah, it really does.
Do
comparison,
doing little things,
all the ways you can get distracted. I have this is kind of a shameless plug here, but I have this great self-care guide that kind of walks you through creating moments like that throughout your day. So I'll share that in the show notes, but we talk about like figuring out the things that fill you up during the day and then scheduling those throughout your day, because that's really the most important piece of your day. So for me, that's like getting up in the morning before kids, having my coffee and reading and kind of my quiet time by myself. And then kind of at the end of the day too. So just having those kind of anchors in your day of just self-care, and also throughout the week. And so just figuring out what's important to you. Putting it in place, figuring out a system for it, and then prioritizing it. And then life.
especially because, you know, if I look at myself and you have the things that are really important to you, or that really, you know, fills your cup, because, you know, for me, that's studying and research, because I'm a geek or a nerd. And I'm a scientific copywriter. That's one of my businesses. So I love research and things like that, but also just for fun, you know, reading research books and studies and everything. But most of the time, finding time for my study or writing my book, it's the first thing that goes off the list, because you know, it doesn't really bring in cash at the moment, or it's I can better do. And that's something, even 19 years old, 19 years in, I still have to watch out that I don't take that off my list first thing. And that's something, you know, you have the self-care plan, you said, and I think that's a brilliant thing, because especially when you're really tired or really overwhelmed with whatever is going on, you know, hospital days for us, it's exhausting, even when the results are good. Long days, it's exhausting. There are a lot of emotions involved. And I teach, I would say my moms with my podcast, but also the women I coach, to have a dopa menu. It's really a thing for quite known in the ADHD world. It's like a menu, you know, you have a starter and a main course and a dessert, but then instead of food, it's things that light
That
you up,
excite you? Yeah, I
or
love
excite
that.
you. Yeah.
A
And then
dopamine instead of like dopamine.
a dopamine. Yeah. It's from dopamine. And it's like 5-minute things that lift you up. And, you know, a trip to Kansas lifts me up, but I can't do that too often. So that's not really on my day-to-day dopamine menu, but I actually have it written out and on a wall on my fridge, but also on my phone, because especially on the days that you're overwhelmed, you can't even remember those things. But then just, you know, having an alarm going off, like, don't forget your happy break, and then you see your happy things. You're like, oh yeah, that's just Lego, or you know, even quilt for a couple of minutes. I used to think I needed hours for quilting. No. It starts with a little square piece of fabric. You know, I can quilt.
Do you
for a
have an
couple of
area
minutes.
like all set up for that in your home?
For the quilting?
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, I've got too many hobbies for that. No, but I've got my quilting bag in the corner for the grabs, so I can. And I on the projects I work, I don't have one big bag. I have little compartments, little zip files, really, so I don't have to search for it. I don't have to find the material or the needles or the stuff for that specific thingy. It's all in one Ziploc bag. Work on that. So
Are you sewing all of this by hand? I'm sorry, I'm kind of getting off track again. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you do have like a system for having that set up so that it's an easy go-to.
Yeah, and it's the same. You can't see it, but behind my computer, I have a wall filled with little how do you call those things? Little cups with fill tips and brushes. So I can, if I want to, I can just grab it.
I love
Don't
that.
have to look for it. And I am lucky enough nowadays that I have my own office. And it's mine.
Yes.
And really, it kept me sane during COVID. Because this was my little sanctuary. Yeah.
I think that's so important that, I mean, not only do we take those breaks and we do those things, but those things that bring us life like that we create that space for it, even if it is just a chair in your room. I mean, whatever that is, we gotta got to be intentional about that.
Yeah.
Love that.
It's the same because, like you, I love reading. I've got books on my nightstand. I've got books on my next to the favorite spot on my couch. So I don't even have to. I normally read like 4 or 5 books at the same time, so I can just grab a book and go on. And on the days that I am, there are a lot of appointments or I've got a lot of work to do, I actually set a timer to remind myself to take a break.
I think that's really wise to actually schedule it in your schedule.
Yeah. And when they were younger, I tended to, on school days, I was like, I'm not working at the moment, so I have to do something, the dishes or the endless washing of clothes. And I've learned nowadays, well, no. On the days that, I've got a couple of hours to myself, a break, taking a break is not a reward at the end of something. Taking a break is something actually that makes you able to do all the things.
That's really hard to get our minds around.
Yeah, I have to say, it's not that I still sometimes like, oh, I should really. And then I'm like, oh, no.
Yeah.
Look at you. What have you actually already done this week? Or all the things that go. You're allowed to, sit for 15 minutes and.
I don't think that I've ever thought about it with that perspective of like, maybe I struggle with that because I see that as a reward.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I do a good job of like my morning, my evening, and sometimes the middle of my day. But anytime I'm sitting down just in the middle of the day, I'm like, I need to be getting up. There's a million things to do right now.
Yeah. But actually today was quite a good example because I kind of felt guilty. So I was like, no, I could feel my energy drop, and I'm dealing with long COVID. So I struggled with fatigue a lot the last year. And I thought, I really need to sit down for 15 minutes, just listen to a fun podcast, because I see that, I really like that. But then I thought, now, while I'm listening to that podcast, I can also fold all the laundry. But after that 50 minutes, I was even more tired because I was still doing an extra chore. And like, it was a good reminder to, no, there's a reason you need a break. Because it actually gives you energy.
Yeah, this is a corporate. We gotta, as mamas, we gotta learn that. And
I think worldwide, at the same time, there should be an alarm going off on all the phones of moms. Take a break. Sit down.
Or like tea time. Why don't we do that?
Yeah.
Might need to be incorporating some of that into my life. Well, I love that. Nadine, is there anything else that you want to encourage mamas with when you're here today?
They're doing fine. I think my number one advice would be stop listening to the outside world and trying to meet outer expectations. I think, that was my biggest struggle because I felt we had to, they had to be this and I should be doing, and it cost so much stress. And when I let that go, I saw the improvements, my kids, my own well-being. Thankfully we are all different, and no matter the disease or the mental challenge, it doesn't mean that your future is set in stone. You can still do and be. You never know what the future will bring. But I think for your own peace of mind, stop listening to the outside world, especially people that have no idea what it is to raise a special needs kid, because they actually have no idea. And you're doing fine. You know, whether you do a lot of therapy with your kids or you don't do a lot of therapy with your kids. It's you as a mom, you know best. It's the nagging of the outside world that makes you doubt yourself. But deep down, you know what works for you and your family. So yeah, listen to yourself because you're doing great.
Thank you for that. I know you're talking to a lot of people, but you're talking to me. I was just telling our attendant a little while ago that I did a podcast recording earlier about a different kind of therapy, and I was like, well, I need to sign all the kids up for that. And I was like, I'm learning so much about all the things. And then at the same time, I'm thinking, well, we got to do this. We got to do this. Like, nobody's eating healthy. We're not sleeping right. We're not like, they're all screwed. Like, I can get there real quick of like, I'm doing a horrible job.
Oh,
And so yes.
yeah.
It's okay.
I felt so guilty especially when I talked to parents, or it was one particular mom, and her daughter was in almost full-time therapy after school, during school, and I just went like, and I felt like, oh, but you know, she's straight A's and doing this and doing that. I'm like, but where's the free time? And can she needs therapy to relax. I think you just need to be allowed to play, you know, so your kid doesn't get straight A's. I think sometimes you need to be more proud for your kid that gets a C and worked his butt off to get that C. Then yeah, even I sometimes, oh, shouldn't I put them in this kind of therapy or that? Yeah, but they should be able to be a kid as well.
Yeah.
And just have fun. And I saw that with our oldest. He needed to relax after school. He needed an hour of just unwinding. So yes, therapy is great. But full-time therapy, yeah. The kid, when it's an adult, needs therapy because he was in therapy all the time and wasn't allowed to be a kid. You know, thankfully, we're not all perfect.
Or nobody is perfect.
I think nobody's perfect. I actually had a sign saying, welcome to my home. It's a mess, but my children are making memories. Something like that. And I always felt like, well, if moms come here, they probably go like, oh gosh, I'm not the only one. Where, you know, yeah, I think it's more important to go get an ice cream with your kids sometimes, or, you know, have the time to do that than non-stop therapy.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming on and encouraging us in our self-care journeys. I'm grateful
You're
for you.
welcome. Thank you. I love being on your podcast. You have to come back soon on mine as well, you know, when the dust settles on my side. And I have to, you know, brain space again. Yeah, I would love to have you come back because seriously, you know, mama systems for you is a lifesaver. Really is a lifesaver.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to do that.
You're welcome.